Right. Welcome everybody. I'm Eugene. For those one who don't know, I'm the CEO and the founder of SSG Consulting, and also I'm the chair of One Africa Network. So I'll be the host today with my partner Dennis Aguma, also who is online, who will be supporting the chairing. He's the partner at SSG Consulting and a lecturer at Birmingham City University on entrepreneurship and SME development, working on a BME ecosystem. So before we start, the priority, of course, is the health and the well-being of everyone. And our thoughts are with all the people who've been affected by COVID epidemics and the crisis. So this is a very testing time for every one of us. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. I'll be muting all the mics because we'll be expecting over 100 people signed up, and we are live on social media, on Facebook and other social media. And also we are trying to adjust it to the new ways. So if you hear any noise of kids or dogs barking or anything like that, it's part of the new norm we're trying to adjust to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So also we are being tested in terms of how we are working the new remote technologies, and of course I'm also testing my chairing skills working remotely. So thanks you for joining us, and of course everybody and our speakers will be working remote, will be joining us remotely. So in terms of before we kick off, I just wanted to introduce about One Africa Network. For those one who doesn't, just a minute, I think I have an extra participant here. Hold on. Ethan, hold on. Okay, come here. Come here. Sorry about that. It's just my son. It's just my son trying to join the video to see.
That's nice. He wants to start young.
Yes, he's curious to see what am I doing. So in terms of before we start, I just wanted to introduce a bit about One Africa Network for those one who doesn't know about what we do, the objective of the initiative, why we started it. Let me share the screen a bit to show. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah.
So just a bit about One Africa, what the initiative is all about. One Africa was launched 2 years ago. Our main objective is to support African and Black businesses, professionals and entrepreneurs within the UK. So we are the leading network of African entrepreneur investors, business leaders, professionals. So we bring together our members to discuss economic, entrepreneurship, innovation, various issues that are affecting our performance and the productivity in the economy, and also to see how we can contribute positively in the society. So over the last 2 years, we've hosted various events where we bring leaders, we bring various professionals and businesses to share the idea, the experience, and some of the practical tools and the best practice that our members can take away to be able to apply and thrive in the society. So these are some of the speakers we've hosted over the last few months and who join us to share some of their perspective. And these are some of the networking we hosted to make sure we bring together our members to create a platform for them to connect and share ideas with like-minded peers, and also identify practical solutions to help them thrive in the economy. So these are some of the things we do. So today, the focus will be on the current situation, which is, I'm sure everyone is aware of the situation. But before I kick off, I just want to maybe just to lay the foundation in terms of where we are at the moment. In terms of COVID-19, of course, we all know is a human tragedy, and of course, has affected so many people. I think today is over 1.5 million and 90K deaths, and it's rapidly evolving. Every day we have to wake up with new announcement, new headline and things like that. Of course, we know why we are working from home because of lockdown and the restriction in terms of movement, many disruption in the supply chain, and the other things we've seen in the last few weeks, major announcement, cancellation of events and projects, so many things. So I'm not going to deep dive into some of those things, so you are aware. So today I'm delighted to announce our agenda, which mainly objective today is to provide the latest update, practical action, and guidance to help you apply today to help navigate current crisis, build resilience and challenges we are all facing. So the topics today we are trying to answer 4 questions which I have on the screen. And I'm delighted to welcome our speakers who have humbly joined us to share their perspective and how we can break down some of the issue highlighted in the topics. So to welcome them, if I start from the next to me is Mayank, who is the CEO and the founder of Minority Supplier Development UK. So I won't deep dive in detail. I'll let them introduce themselves because I think situation is changing very rapidly. So their situation may have changed. And the second on the line, we have Dr. Yvette, who's a very successful transformational coach working with women in business.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Oh, bless you. So, and the third on the line, we have Dr. Ifeniwa, who's the director for IntelliDigest Limited and also a PhD researcher in civil engineering at Howard University. And down at the bottom, we have Caroline, who's the head of Free Choice and Diverse Mental Health, an expert in health and well-being, and also a consultant and coach. And also we have second before last, we have Abimbola, who's the business development manager and the relationship specialist at Lifestyle and Energy. And finally, we have Aline, who's a financial management consultant and on mortgages and insurance. So help me to welcome all the speakers, but to kick off the introduction, I give the opportunity for Mayank to introduce himself, what he does, and also help us to answer the first question, how the current crisis has disrupted his day as usual, livelihood, businesses, or work as usual. And then we'll go on the line. Welcome, Mayank, and help us to give insight into what you do and how the situation has changed your life.
Thank you, Eugene. And first of all, thank you for inviting me to join this panel, a distinguished panel, and also welcome everyone who is on this webinar. I'm Mayank Shah. I'm the founder and CEO of Minority Supplier Development UK. This is a not-for-profit organization that I set up way back in 2006. And the purpose of MSDUK is to help and support BAME businesses. We call them ethnic minority businesses from all across the UK. The main purpose is how to make them successful. And the way we do it is, first of all, build business capabilities and support them in building a sustainable business by providing world-class education programs in partnership with some of the leading business schools in the world. We also provide what I call grow their business, helping them grow their business by connecting them with over 100 global brands. So we talk about market and supply chain disruption. We help them get into those supply chains of likes of IBMs and GSKs of this world. We work with around 50 global corporations at the moment, And finally, we also help them go global by connecting to more than 30,000 minority businesses all across the world, from Australia to South Africa to Canada to USA. That's what we do. We are not for profit, based out of Leicester, but we are almost global in reach. To answer your question about the impact on livelihoods, work, business, I think first of all, we all will agree that what has this COVID-19 situation has resulted in, especially in business networks and businesses, is steep decline in revenue, steep decline in customers, steep decline in demand, and also which has resulted in a huge impact on cash flow. I think we all understand this, and this is a reality that we are all facing as entrepreneurs. Especially my network has more than 3,000 BAME entrepreneurs in our network from all across the world and all across the UK. And what we are seeing and the responses we are getting is that these are some of the biggest issues that are facing. And because of that, as entrepreneurs, the last thing we would like to see is make our employees redundant. And we have this tough decisions that we have to make on daily basis. How do we retain the best talent that we have got in our business, so that when we are back to normal, how can we immediately go on a kick-starting the business again? So I think those are some of the challenges that we are facing, and also keeping our business afloat. I know so many businesses have gone down, whether it's in hospitality industry, etc. But I think what we have to do is be resilient, find new opportunities in these crises, because as entrepreneurs, we are risk takers. We always find, reinvent ourselves as we face challenges. And we need to make sure that we stick together as a community, we help each other. This is important, that we are not looking for short-term gains. We are looking to build a business based on community spirit, helping each other, and also make sure that we reduce overheads, we reduce, and leverage government support that we are getting at the moment. And also, I think the biggest thing that I always say to businesses, and I've been in business for 34 years, the most important thing is retaining trust and relationship, maintaining relationship with your clients. Use this time when a business is down, is slow, to build up relationship with your clients, because they are going to help you when you come back. Those are some of my tips and some of my sort of observations.
Maybe Eugene is on mute again.
Oh,
Eugene?
she's back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayank. So sorry for we are being with the disruption in the technology. So the next one, I want to invite Yvette also to introduce herself and shed some light in terms of what she does and how the situation, the crisis has disrupted her business as usual, and what are the latest in the market. What's the situation at the moment in terms of the experience and how she navigating the situation?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me today. It's the first time I've met some of you, so hello.
Hello.
So my background is I trained as a journalist, moved into PR marketing, business development before I went into coaching. So I am a transformational coach, so I use neurolinguistic programming techniques, and I'm a performance coach. So my work is all about getting people to perform at their best, remove limiting beliefs. So that's one side of what I do. I'm also a business consultant. So I also help people with their business plans, strategies, etc. So my view is kind of on both sides. In terms of my personal business as usual, I've been working from home for about 7 years or so. So the biggest change is obviously the disruption of having my family now at home whilst I try to work. So that is actually the biggest challenge. I'm not supposed to be homeschooling. I'm not a teacher, so that's not my role. So it's more supporting my child through this, as well as having to now negotiate time as my husband is at home, where he'd normally be outside doing the 9 to 5. So that's on a personal level. In terms of clients, there's a mix of what's happening. So some clients have seen their businesses completely fall off, and some have not been able to make changes. Others have risen to this challenge and have pivoted their businesses online. And some of them are thriving, being more creative, being more innovative, and really doing new things. the people that I've been talking to, they've said, you know, in 2 or 3 years, I want to do this. Well, it's not 2 or 3 years, they're doing it now. They've made that change very quickly because they needed to do something. And as I said, my business works online. Whilst I do a lot of speaking, all of that's just shifted online. But one of the things I'd like to point out as well is, depending what your industry is, some businesses are actually thriving. Some are booming. There are people that are employing people now. There are people that are busier than they have ever been in the last year or so. So that the idea that there is a complete drop for everybody, I have to say it's true for a large group of people, but be aware that there are some pockets, there are some industries, there are groups of clients who are still looking for people to serve them, who still have money to pay for services, and who still want to engage services. So I think if we fall into the trap of, you know, there's nothing out there, that's a big trap to fall into. And I do agree with Mayank that this is the perfect time to be there and be visible for your communities. You know, if you are a leader in your community, this is what people are looking for. They're looking for certainty. They're looking for leadership, and visibility is part of that for you. You need to be out there speaking to your customers, speaking to your clients, touching base, finding out where they're at, seeing how they're doing, you know, talking about what's going on for you. Don't disappear in this time. And you are going to find it really difficult to build from scratch if you start doing this in 3 or 4 months' time. And there isn't going to be a back to normal. There is going to be a new normal. Understand that, you know, some industries will not make it. How we work will completely change. We won't be able to get back to business as usual. A lot will evolve and a lot will move forward. So preparing for the future is the way, rather than focusing on how you just deal with right now. You need to plan for things to be different. And the biggest thing that is likely to be different for everybody is who they work with. Your target audience who you've been serving, dealing with right now, may change drastically. So being aware of who is it that will now need what you do. So you're not changing what you do, but you may be changing who you do it for. So that's something that I just wanted people to think about as we go forward and as things are changing and evolving, and planning with your what you do, your specialism in mind, but thinking about the new audiences that you may be targeting it towards.
Thank you, Yvette, and also for pointing out, of course, out of crisis or disruption, there's also opportunity. It's good to point out that not everything is doom and gloom, and also pinpointing that this is the time for those people also who are looking to go into leadership, to shine out in terms of how they can demonstrate their resilience and agility. Before I dip into detail, probably let's just invite Dr. Ifenia also to give a bit of overview in terms of her background and how the situation has disrupted her business, or as usual. Hello, Ifenia. I think she...
Cool. Thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you very much, Eugene, for the invite to be part of the discussion today. Absolute pleasure for me. My sector is looking at how we can provide a more environmentally friendly solution to one of the biggest problems that we have globally, which is food waste, and also how that can actually impact on how we manage another big problem we have, which is plastic waste. So with a background in civil engineering and environmental engineering, having completed my PhD, I founded and started up IntelliDigest. So IntelliDigest, at IntelliDigest, we use advanced technologies to be able to develop more automated solutions to enable businesses to actually maximize value from wherever is their food waste on site and convert it into new kind of products that is useful for the society. So well, we have a machine that can be put in hotels and restaurants, and all they need to do is put in food waste and generate new kind of climate-friendly chemicals from it. So basically, our customers are mostly businesses in the hospitality and facility management sector. So we're working with brands like Marriott Hotel to use our products. But considering the existing circumstances, definitely our sector has been hit badly in terms of, everything has been shut down, and what we're trying to do now is to see how we can actually work with those businesses and be able to still make an impact in the society and support the society as we go through all of these crises. So we have a platform that also enables these businesses to repurpose or make the food that would have gone to waste that is still good for human consumption available for people that needed to use it. So if I give you an example, if you go to a hotel and the breakfast closes by 10 o'clock, if you go there by 9:55 or 9:50, you will see eat a meal, but by 10 o'clock, everything is chucked in the bin. So we're supporting these businesses to be able to make this food available to people to use it. But what we're trying to do now is to convert that platform so that these businesses, rather than being shut down, can actually support the society and make food widely available to the society. I mean, this is very crucial at this point because most of the supply chain that, kind of links up with these sectors already had their plans of manufacturing. If you had in the news, there was huge volume of milk that was just wasted recently, and huge vegetables and other things which have been grown for the hospitality sector to use, ideally, and most of the coffee shop and restaurant. But because this business is out of business, that means most of these are going to waste. So the issue is, how do we make this more available? So it's how do we key into the challenge we have currently around this COVID crisis to still make an impact in the society and reduce the amount of waste we actually generate around us. So that's one of the things we're trying to do, and also having to also stay home, stay safe, and keep your family together is something that I also have to try to manage. Doing homeschooling like bedseed and still trying to run the business, keep up with meetings and stuff like that can be quite challenging. But it's just something that you have to kind of be a bit strategic around it, as well as know that you might just have to put in extra efforts to keep things going. I think for me as a business, what we're just trying to do is see how we can re-strategize all that we're doing. First of all, we already repurposed our IntelliService platform, and that thing we're doing is, rather than focusing only on the hospitality sector, we're also looking at how we can support households, because at the moment, most of the waste collectors are having problem with their staff, either having to stay at home to look after their children or actually isolating. So that means your bin collection may not go as frequent as it used to go, and you need to ask yourself, one of the key questions I've been trying to put across to people is whether we really need to keep doing what we're doing currently, or do we need to use more advanced technology to do things more efficiently. So rather than just focusing on the hospitality sector now, we try to look out and see how we can actually support the wider community using advanced technology, so that in the future you can actually use our system in your household, in your homes, to actually upcycle your food waste, creating climate-friendly chemicals that can be used to produce packaging in the future. So that means you actually add into the ecosystem, and then you can get voluntary carbon credit for doing that, which means I can actually offset your carbon travel. So I think there's a lot, as a business, you need to think around how can you make an impact, how can you support change, how can you make things work better. But I think before I leave, I think one of the key things you need to do as a business is to, first of all, assess what is going on. So analyze what could be your challenges, try to see how you can adapt to the new environment, and also think of the future, after we come out of this worstness, things is never going to be the same again. So what happens next after this period? How do you manage your staff stream? How do you manage your customer? How do you take things forward? Do you need to put anything in place at this point as a business to be able to move towards that? So I think not just thinking about how do you pivot, how do you do other things, but how do you take it forward as a business after going through this crisis, I think is very critical. And just having that kind of holistic view of understanding that you need to be emotional, you need to be sympathetic, you need to be empathetic, you need to be understanding with both your staff, with both your customer, with both your supply chain. And then you need to adapt, and then you need to look at the future. I think those are the kind of things we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Fenia, for that broad overview about in terms of what you're doing and how you've been impacted. And the next up, I'll probably invite Caroline to give an overview. So having or being working in the mental health, and I guess she's the most highly sought expert at the moment, and and especially now with the talk going on about people becoming mentally stressed with the changes and the disruption. Probably, Caroline, give a bit of insight into how your world has changed and what was the situation at the moment. How is people coping with the mental health issues, working from home and things like that?
Eugene, first I want to say thank you. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about mental health and well-being, which is something that I've been involved in for over 25 years. So, you know, that I've been banging on about how important mental health is for a very long time, and trying to bring awareness to how that is an integral, fundamental part of how we are and how we function. And to look at that, not just individually, but in the workplace, because in the workplace, it's very much been neglected as an important part of the employee's welfare. And often it's concentrated very much on health and safety in relation to physical health. But now we actually started looking at mental health and well-being. That became now more recognized as we saw more people being affected by mental health and mental illness, and that impacting their ability to work, and that affecting the bottom line of businesses, where people not being able to work and missed hours, and companies losing really valuable employees who had to take time off or leave. And so what I'm seeing now, Eugene, is that although we were seeing that was important and employers were recognizing that, and so I was going in and giving guidance and consultation to organizations how they could develop a more mentally healthy culture, the coronavirus now has really made an impact, because this is a global event and it's actually a traumatic incident. It's a traumatic incident because it's something that's unparalleled, that a lot of people have never experienced in their lifetime. And they're being asked to do things that are really testing their mental and physical abilities and limits. And the reality of the situation, that it is life-threatening, that people are losing their lives, that they're becoming ill, everybody is at risk, is affecting the economy, people are losing their jobs, they're losing businesses, and they're being isolated and separated from their family and friends and colleagues, and they have to rethink everything. That is huge, and it's having an impact on people where they're actually very fearful of their lives and their future. And they're feeling very insecure. There's a lot of frustration out there, a lot of anger, a lot of uncertainty, a sense of loss and bereavement and disconnection. And so the work that I've been doing is very much about letting people know that it's okay for them to be feeling how they're feeling. It's normal. Considering this traumatic event of the coronavirus, people have to expect that they're going to feel scared and frustrated, and there's going to be uncertainty. But in that, we have the ability to be able to react in a way that we become more resilient, and we're able to cope with that. We're able to come together and see and take particular steps to help us through that and to cope with that. And so I know that we're going to be talking about what people can do later on to help them mentally through this particular crisis. What I've been seeing is that people have been looking for really clear advice about what they can do to deal with their really uncomfortable feelings and their fear, and also to plan for the future as well. What can they look forward to? What can they hope for? how can they act in a really positive, constructive way to see them move forward and to be able to come out the other side. So it's a matter of survival for a lot of people. And so you're seeing that in the isolation and people not having the contact that they're used to and being able to go out, you're seeing a lot more people becoming depressed, becoming frustrated, getting into conflicts. They're feeling very alone, and they're actually really trying to figure out how they can deal with their particular anxieties and fears. So what I'm doing is working with individuals and companies and organizations, and also the National Health Service, to see how they can actually take really positive steps to help them cope with this particular situation.
Thank you, Caroline. And I think one of the things you mentioned, of course, is people becoming stressed at home, in isolation, things like that. And one of the questions which probably we'll look into later is quite a lot of employers have requested employees to work from home, but some of them, they've never done assessment to make sure that employees have conducive environment at home. Some people either live in one bedroom flat or one bedroom with other people, so you can't even concentrate. So that's a big challenge for certain people to work even from home and things like that. I think let me invite Abimbola also to give an insight in terms of her career and how this the situation has disrupted her business as usual. In terms of business development, we can see a lot of supply chain disrupted. Businesses are confused in terms of how they engage their global cross-border engagement and things like that. So Abimbola, welcome, and introduce yourself and give us a bit of overview in terms of how your world is at the moment, where are some of the disruption and how is shifting your industry.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So my name is Bimbola, and you can call me Bim as well. I currently work for a Norwegian company called Rystad Energy. I've been with them almost 8 years now. But in total, I've been in the oil and gas or energy industry for roughly 10 years now. It's quite interesting times that we are going through. In my view, if I start with the oil industry side of things, it's a bit of a cyclical experience that we go through already. We had the oil price crash in 2008, and then in 2014 to 16, we had another one. And now we have the situation with OPEC, Saudi, essentially, and with Russia, two of them together, we call OPEC Plus. It's a case of two elephants fighting, and then the grass suffers, and the grass is everybody else in the world. So we have that, and couple that together with the coronavirus situation. The oil price tanked a week and a half ago. So this, of course, has really affected our business. And me being in charge of the African market at Rystad Energy, as well as being a relationship specialist for selected companies within Europe, it's been really, really challenging bringing on any sort of new opportunities or businesses at all, because the first thing potential companies or potential clients, the first thing they think about is how they need to keep their heads above water to start with, especially with the whole oil price situation. Speaking of which, of course, Corona is still going on. There was meant to be some meeting today. I suppose it should have happened by now, again with OPEC Plus, which is Saudi and Russia. So the oil price jumps by 12% today. So a little bit of good news. So it's gone from being roughly $20, $25, $26 a barrel to $34 a barrel today. A lot of people in the oil industry, both within the supply chain side, which is the oil services, and the exploration and production side, a lot of people are losing their jobs. Now, for those of us within the consulting space, it has been quite busy. Maybe I need to talk to Caroline later, because I think I'm spending 16 hours a day working.
Yeah, we have to talk later, Bim.
I need to check my mental health because we need to keep our clients happy. We need to make sure that they know that we care about them, and we need to keep our business afloat. So by doing that, I have been engaging with a lot of my clients via webinars, like what we're doing, for instance, right now. For example, I had one in Aberdeen yesterday, but it wasn't just Aberdeen. It was a case of everyone globally, even though the company is headquartered in Aberdeen. But the benefits or the plus side of this is, ideally, I would fly to Aberdeen and I would meet maybe 20 people. But this time around, I'm talking to about 60 people. So there's more engagement because everyone is at home. Everyone is on lockdown, and a lot of people want to know, okay, so what's the industry saying? What should we be looking at in short term? Short term being a year, 2 years. Are things going to bounce back? What are we looking at in terms of OPEC plus? There's a decline in demand because of transportation, jet fuel, and a whole lot of other things that would require us to get out of our house. So there's a lot of decline in demand on that space. Therefore, there's a whole lot of stockpile of oil and gas in storage, and also based on whatever development is going on by companies, which means there's so much supply, oil price is still going to keep crashing. So companies are looking at, okay, we need to start cutting down people. We need to start cutting down, headcounts. And what we are doing is trying to ensure that there's need for that reduction of headcounts or of human resources not to happen, so they're able to see the benefits of keeping this afloat, keeping their own businesses afloat based on the support that we're giving them. So again, maybe without trying to broaden it out and confusing everyone with my industry, what we've been doing is essentially using the technological know-how to reach out to a whole lot more of our clients, and prospects, and just trying to keep them abreast and afloat of what we see, where the industry is going, and that also helps them to make critical decisions. And we just probably keep our fingers crossed and see how things go with Corona, because we are experiencing like a double-edged sword. It's not just the Corona situation, it's also the oil price situation. So yeah.
Thank you so much for that insight and sharing some of the challenges you are facing, especially the oil industry is always like in those kind of facing those kind of disruption, as you mentioned. Let me finally invite Aline to give a bit, to introduce herself, also give a bit of insight in terms of what she's seeing from the financial perspective. We all know quite a lot of people at the moment are financially struggling, and the businesses especially trying to find loan to keep afloat, and also people who are being laid off thinking about the next move in terms of how they can maintain their mortgages, their credit card and things like that. So these are unsettling times also for people who have a lot of financial responsibilities, and also with a lot of challenges or unknown ahead, unable to find new ways to create revenues or income. Please welcome and give an insight in terms of how is your world shifting, and how are you working with people facing some of these challenges?
Right. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Eugene, for inviting me. It was such an honor to be part of this amazing panel. It's the first time in a while I've done this, so bear with me. My name is Aline Manirambona, so I'm a fully qualified mortgage and insurance broker. So I deal with the home buying side of things when it comes to finance. I have worked in the financial services and real estate industry for over a decade. I have gone through the first recession back in 2008. So I know this too will pass. So I'm just trying to keep my head together, because we've been here before and we'll come out of it. So in terms of what I do, I have access to a comprehensive range of mortgages, and you know, I have over 10,000 mortgage products that I source from high street lenders to also non-high street lenders who only work with brokers. And because I work with one of the largest UK network, I get access to exclusive deals that you simply won't be able to get on the high street, because we've got such a huge buying power. I've worked with all type of clients, from high net worth to, you know, just a standard average earner. So I have helped clients with all type of income streams secure mortgages on both commercial and residential mortgages. So from landlords, professional landlords, to first-time buyers, remortgages, help to buys, you know, anything that can be secured in a property, I deal with that as well. I also have access to specialist lenders that deals with more complex cases, like development finance. So if you're looking to buy land and build a restaurant or whatever, so we can access to those sort of finance as well. I deal with quite a few foreign nationals, so people that are on tier 1 visas, tier 2 visas, spouse visas, also overseas investors as well. So I've got quite a few clients from Dubai, you know, some East European clients as well that are looking to invest in the UK market. And also British nationals living abroad, such as expats, looking to maybe come back to the UK in the next few years. So they're starting to buy a home before they come back. So I deal with those sort of clients as well. So I've got quite a wide range of products that I deal with. Also people that are over the age of 55 or the age of 50 that have got lots of equity in their home, and they need to obviously increase their existing income by releasing some equity from their home. So we also we work with equity releases products in terms of that as well. Now, because I work in a very regulated industry, I have to do some disclosure when I do these sort of discussions as part of compliance. Otherwise, I get one of those. So I'm just going to say this very quickly. So I work for Money Sprite and is an appointed representative of Open Work. So Open Work is the second largest network in the UK, and they are authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. And the FCA number for this, I have to say this, is 448283. And the other thing I must say as well is that your home may be repossessed if you do not keep up repayment on a mortgage or any other debt secured on it. And also, to cover myself, anything that I discuss in terms of mortgages is very generalized, because, you know, each case is treated differently. So I'm not giving any advice or recommendation. I'm purely just sharing my views on what's happening currently, just in case somebody tried to say something. So that's my introduction. Now, in terms of how I have COVID-19 has impacted me personally, so I'm a mother of 2 primary age children. So COVID-19 has had a major impact for me, because although I've been working from home since 2017, but while I worked, the children were at school, so I was fine with that. But now I had to accommodate homeschooling, so that was a bit of a struggle. So I had to, while at the same time, still trying to manage the client's home buying process, because obviously if there's any delays, then they could end up losing their property. So I have to keep up with that as well. So what I had to do, I had to reevaluate my schedule just to make sure that another thing, and I think Caroline will love this, I had to put my mental well-being as number 1 priority. So I had to create new habits to make sure I have a time for that. So as a mom, working mom as well, what I had to do, I had to try to wake up at least a couple of hours before the children wake up, so I can do my exercises, my meditation, Bible studies, etc. So mentally, I'm ready for the day, and also making sure the house or the domestic work is done the night before. So, all I have to do is just work during the day. So that's why, otherwise, if I don't manage my mental health, I cannot manage the children, I cannot manage myself, I cannot manage the client, and, I'll just go crazy. So I have to really focus on that. Now, in terms of our industry, the mortgage industry is now we're having changes on it every single day, you know. So as for the mortgage industry, there's a lot of miscommunication, misinformation out there that lenders are not lending, and that's completely incorrect. They are still lending. It's just that at the moment they are working at a much lower and slower pace, only because they have to focus that energy on trying to implement a system to be able to accommodate the mortgage payment holiday clients that might be needing that. So they're really trying to focus on that. However, they are still accepting applications, although there have been some changes in terms of criteria and product, but business is, you know, some clients, some lenders are still, you know, they are still lending. Now, because of the social distancing measures that the government has implemented, it just means that the estate agents had to stop business. So, which means there's no viewings for most of my clients that were already in the early stages of the buying process. And unfortunately, some of my clients that works in the hospitality industry, they had to go on furlough. So again, they've had to postpone their buying process. So my business on the mortgage side has been affected. It's gone very quiet. And the other thing as well, all the applications I've already submitted, some of the lenders have decided to put the valuation on hold because they can't do the physical valuation. However, as the market evolved, they keep coming up with different ways of trying to make sure things happen. So there's different ways of doing valuation. There's AVM, which is automated, is another way of just doing an automatic valuation based on mathematics. And also there's also desktop valuations as well. So most lenders have started using those strategies, but they're trying to use that towards the lower risk product, so the lower loan to value product, and the people that are looking to remortgage as well. So if you're looking at borrowing at that 95% to value, it's very unlikely that a lender will do a desktop valuation or an AVM. They might have to wait until a physical valuation can take place because it's much higher risk in regards to that. But at the same time, so if you already got a mortgage offer out and you waited to complete, I know there's information out there that you can't move into a property. Now, that depends on the case. So if you are buying a new build, for example, there is still a possibility that you can move in because there is a chain. You're just moving to a new property. Now, if you're buying a property that's already secondhand, someone that you're buying from is waiting to move as well, or they're self-isolating, then that's when it becomes a problem. So what lenders are trying to do, they're trying to support buyers by extending the offer up to 6 months before they can actually, move in, just to accommodate them in regards to that as well. Obviously, what this does, it creates a problem in a buying chain as well. But there's not really nothing like that we can do in regards to that. We just have to just wait. Now, the other thing is, I do get daily communication from lenders in regards to all the changes. So what can be done today we might not be able to do it tomorrow. So they're just responding to what's happening in the market. So it's quite important to try to not get your information from the media. Try to speak to specialist advisors who actually do the job every single day, that we actually get the information on a daily basis to really know what's really happening. It's not as bad as what people are making out to be. Now, the other thing is, you can still buy a house. You just have to have a good deposit. And that's pretty much that. And but what I'm seeing that's happening quite a lot at the moment is that now people are just worried, making sure that their income is insured. So although the mortgage business has reduced, my insurance inquiries and business, I've seen that's going up as well, because now people are really concerned. Oh my God, I want to make sure that my income is protected, just in case if I was to be sick for a longer period, then my employer is willing to pay me for. So there's an increase in terms of business from the insurance point of view. So that's what's going on at the moment. Now, in regards to what's going forward, I think that's something that we're going to discuss as well. So I'll be able to share what people are are putting in place or doing to try to stay on top of things.
Thanks, Aline, for that overview in terms of overview of the financial aspect and some of the key things in the mortgage sector. The second question we have, of course, this is a general question for all the experts on the panel in terms of, based on your experience, how can we, individuals, what are the best practice or resilience or transformation best practice people can adopt to help navigate the current situation or the new norm? Because every day is different. For example, every day I wake up and we just have a meeting to check to make sure the reality from yesterday is still the same. Sometimes we've seen our client canceling project 4:59. So in the morning you wake up, you see a big email, sorry, unfortunately, we are canceling the project. So it's a very fluid and very rapidly changing situation every day. You have a lot of headlines from the government and we need to adjust to it, to the new situation. How can people be more agile and resilient and be able to navigate the current rapidly evolving environment?
Yeah. I think, Eugene, from the mental health point of view, it's clear that people cannot expect to carry on business as usual. And trying to do that and expecting to do that is unrealistic, and you're only putting pressure on yourself. And as you mentioned, because things are rapidly changing and uncertain, it's very important that people allow themselves that adaptability and that flexibility, and that they recognize that, as I mentioned earlier, this is a traumatic event. So your mental health can be severely impacted. And it's so important that people feel okay about recognizing that. I think we had a couple of panelists earlier who mentioned that their mental health is being impacted, and they're making conscious choices to make sure that they look after that. And that's important in this very volatile and difficult time, because it's going to be going on for the next few weeks. Things are likely to get worse rather than better. And you actually need to have good mental health and resilience, and to be able to feel okay about that, not to feel selfish, not to feel guilty, not to feel that you're not doing your work, you're not getting as much done, you're not being as productive. That's something that now has changed. The important thing is for people to be able to recognize and to feel okay, because there is a stigma around mental health. We've been talking about that for so long, that people feel weak. They feel as if they are going to be judged, that they're not good enough, that they're not able to cope. And the reality is that this is a time where we have to look at building our mental resilience, our coping strategies. We need to take care of ourselves, and we have to acknowledge and recognize that this is impacting our mental health. It's making people panic. They're fearful, they're frustrated, they're angry, they're irritable, they're getting into conflict, they're losing people, they're losing their livelihoods, and uncertain about the future. That's the reality, and it's okay to be able to recognize that and to invest in strategies that they can use to actually combat that. So I've got lots of strategies that I'm happy to go through. Would you like me to do that now, or perhaps later on towards the end?
I think probably for a deep dive one, we might have to invite you for another one specifically.
I think Eugene.
Well, I guess I could go over some of the really important ones.
Yes.
And I'm happy then to, I've put together an information sheet that people can actually refer to later on for your guests or for the panelists as well.
Yeah.
But one of the most important things I would say is that you actually monitor your mental health, and that you reflect on how it's impacting you, and that you act sooner rather than later, and recognize the symptoms. If you're becoming demotivated, if you're becoming lethargic, if you're sleeping longer, if you're becoming irritable, if you're feeling hopeless, and you're having feelings of self-harm or you're feeling that you can't go on or you want to give up, these are signs that your mental health is being impacted. And it's important then to be able to engage in strategies, first to reach out to people to get support and to talk about it, and then to engage in strategies like making sure that you have good sleep, that you go to sleep at a regular time, that you have enough sleep, that you're not working long hours, and that you're being active. Being active rather than passive gives you a sense that you're actually doing something against a situation. If you're passive, you have a sense that something is being done to you, and that you have nothing to do, and that you can't do anything about it. So what's really important is that you engage in activities where you're staying in contact with people, you're chatting, you're doing exercise, that you're engaging regularly with your colleagues, that you're checking in, and that you are able to also limit your exposure to the mass coverage of the coronavirus, because that will have a negative impact on you. Choose to listen to it once a day rather than continually, because that will impact your mental health and drag you down. And so important to focus and to be productive, to feel that, you know, to structure your day and to plan things that you want to aim for, and use your creativity, engage with your family, with your friends, with your colleagues, and be open about that, and reach out. And I think that mindset is really important as well. See it as something that we will get through. As humans, we're resilient and we're survivors. And we will, I think a member of the panel mentioned it earlier, we will get through this, but we need to feel that we have the resources and the focus, and that we support each other and come together to get through. So that's just a few of them. I've got a lot more, and as I said, I'm happy to send you the information.
Thank you for that. And what do the rest people think? Or
I think, yeah, Eugene, I think I agree with Caroline that one of the things that I'm practicing, you know, you mentioned about as entrepreneurs, we are every day tackling daily crisis. But one thing that is important, and what I do and which works very well for me, is that I have a routine. I'm trying to get, even though working from home, I have set a routine. I wake up early. I'm an early riser, but first thing I do is, it's lovely weather out there. You know, I go for a run. You know, I do that so that fresh air, morning air. You know, I get that really good energy into for me. Secondly, again, Caroline mentioned, don't just look at news all the time. I have just, well, you know, I just only allocate half an hour in a day to do that. Third is, there is so much, because now you are always on internet, there is so much distraction that you get in my inbox every day now. I'm getting nearly 50 different invites for different webinars, and these are important because you learn so much, but you need to allocate time, because if you just, so I have allocated nearly 1 hour to just work on LinkedIn or attend a webinar, and I try to do it in the evening so that I have my daytime focused on working. I give myself a 2-hour break for lunch, you know, 12 to 2, so that I don't receive any phone calls. I focus on important emails, but also I go out for a quick walk, you know, after lunch. I do those kind of things so that I'm keeping myself really active and positive. Remain positive is very important. The other thing that I would say to entrepreneurs, you know, who are facing this crisis, is this is the perfect time to build your brand. And by saying that, what I mean is pay it forward. You know, I use this term regularly, pay it forward. I have seen so many entrepreneurs doing community services. You know, we have one entrepreneur in our network, ethnic minority business, that has around 5,000 service apartments all over the world. And what he has done is he has given 2,000 apartments to New York Mayor and London Mayor to provide housing, free housing to frontline staff near the hospitals. Just think about that. That's paying it forward, because he is building his brand for the future. We have got so many examples of entrepreneurs using this time to pay it forward, helping community, helping NHS, because that helps in building brand for the long term. The other thing is involve your team as entrepreneurs. Make sure that you are looking after them, but also give them that, because as entrepreneurs, we need to have that positive frame of mind so that we can also motivate our team. It's very important. I think someone mentioned that some of the people are living in one bedroom and using that as an office also. I have 2 staff who are young people who are just in a shared apartment in one bedroom. It's so important to keep and motivating them, giving them advice of, okay, take a break. You don't have to work 9 to 5. You can get up early, take a 2-hour break, go around, go on a bike, go for a walk. Try to encourage them to motivate themselves. I think all those things are really simple tips of how I do manage my business, keep myself healthy. I'm doing painting. I've never picked up a brush, but now I'm doing that, on the weekend, so that I can involve myself in so many different things. I'm doing cooking. I love cooking, so I'm doing that. Try to do all those kind of things so that it gives you positive thinking and positive energy. Keep motivating your team and use this time to build your brand. Those are the 3 advice that I can give.
Yeah. Now, from the financial side of things, I would definitely, recommend, again, just thinking ahead. Just start reviewing your current financial situation. Now, most service providers are being very supportive and reasonable as well. Also, and all your creditors as well. So all your credit cards company and loans. So you can contact them for them to give you a holiday as well. Now, if you've got a property that has lots of equity and your income can still support it, you might find it better to actually consolidate all your loans or debt into a mortgage, which is going to be a much lower rate as it is now, and that way you'll be able to save up in the long run. But also, because interest rates are so low at the moment, this is probably the best time to review it and maybe fix the mortgage interest for a longer term. At least that way the lower monthly payment is guaranteed. Yes, always stay in communication. If you're obviously having got a mortgage, you're a renter, know your rights, that you can't be evicted in this stage. If you're affected by COVID-19, you can speak to your landlord, and your landlord can use that to request a holiday payment from the lender. But remember, whatever the balance remains between the mortgage payment and the rent, you're still liable for that. Again, this is probably the opportunity to then look at Social Security, maybe look at universal credit, and one of the best websites. Obviously, I'm not an expert when it comes to benefit payment, but there is turntous.co.uk that are very good at calculating what you're entitled to as well. So the main thing is communication, and then start looking at ways to financial plan for the future. So if something like this was to happen again, you are okay financially, because previously people took their health for granted. You can't do that in this situation now. And no one is untouchable with COVID-19. Anyone can get this. So again, start looking at, putting, insurance in place to make sure that you're protected from that point of view. Yes, I think that's that's what I would say from the financial side of things. Just reviewing your current situation. If there are sort of certain bills like gym membership and things like that, you can cancel them. You don't need to keep up with that. I'm doing most of my workouts on YouTube, and they are pretty amazing. And I'm just thinking, why have I been paying £60 a month and I've never attended? And there's some amazing workouts online. Mm-hmm. So this is a good time to really just focusing on keeping a roof over your head, keeping your children and yourself fed, and because you can't go out anywhere, so you don't have to worry about buying clothes because you have nowhere to go. So it's just keeping yourself alive and healthy, and taking care of yourself mentally until we go over this. But I think when we come out of this, I think definitely people will definitely have a different mindset when it comes to their finances. We are a nation of borrowers. We're compared to, for example, in France, they save before they buy, whereas here we borrow to buy, and this is why quite a lot of people they are in trouble as a result of that. So yeah, so that's my take on that.
I think for me, I think it's more on being able to empathize and sympathize, whether it's with your staff, with your supply chain, with your customers. So as a business, how do you reach out to people in terms of this crisis moment? How do you manage people's expectations, and how do you adapt to the existing problem? I think it's critical for us to wear that cup of being empathetic and sympathetic, understanding how our staff is going, what they're going through, and how we can support them, understanding our customers that, you know, the challenges they're going through, being able to explain to them our own challenges for our supply chain. I think that's very critical. But on a personal note, I think we also need to empathize and sympathize with each other with the challenges we have in our community, especially when we go shopping. We should understand that we need to shop for what we can use and to avoid unnecessary waste. So, so I think that's something that I walk around, and I see a lot of, you know, issue with people wasting food at this point just because they go to the shop and they shop a lot. If we kind of wear that cup of understanding, then we shop for what we need, and then we also consider our neighbors that they need to do their own shopping, and then we manage our resources as more efficiently as we can. There's a huge reduction in carbon emission within this period because people are staying at home, but what that's going to result in the future, we don't know. It's also thinking about the future and thinking about how do we navigate through this, and who do we become in the future when we leave this crisis? How do we actually work towards reducing our overall carbon emission, knowing that we can actually do it when the crisis has come, and we can actually avoid certain things we would have naturally done, whether you know, this gives us the opportunity to rethink the way we approach things, the way we do things in the future. I think that's very critical. So thank you very much.
Yvette and Bimbora, what's your thought on this?
Well, my two things would be, you know, having that routine, and I practice self-care, and lots of people have mentioned self-care in different ways, and self-care is that practice of, you know, creating those habits that enable you to be focused and positive, and, you know, look after yourself, mind, body and soul. So having that routine, the morning routine, looking at the things that, you know, help uplift you, keep you going, keep you focused, and also help you with reframing the mindset. One of the things I practice on a daily basis is gratitude. And it sounds almost strange, but that practice is what has kept me really focused right now as I deal with bereavements, as I deal with, you know, people whose businesses are falling apart, and as I'm still reaching out and supporting people, I'm also keeping myself supported and uplifted through that practice. So that's kind of on my personal level and also professional level, looking at those things, being able to see that there is still good, still amazing things that are happening every single day, even in this situation. The other thing is about forward planning. So obviously, you know, financially, as Aline's talks about, you know, looking at your mortgage going forward, but looking at your business practices going forward. You know, we have realized that we can operate differently, we can change differently. So what is it you want to do going forward? Do you really want to rush back to that office? Do you want to do that? You know, you might find that you don't want to work like that anymore. You might wish to change how you do things. All those organizations that said you cannot work from home, it's not possible. Well, they've just made it possible, haven't they? Yeah. They found a way to make you work from home. They found a way to support you. You know, not all organizations are great at this, because replicating that 9 to 5 at home is really impractical. So, you know, finding new ways of being coming through this, but looking at your plans for the future doesn't mean you disregard them. You might adapt them, change them. What is it you still want to do? What impact is it that you want to make? And that resilience comes from that flexibility, from looking at the mindset, from thinking of what can I do? How can I show up? And thinking about what you can actually affect change on. You know, as Caroline mentioned, there's lots of things that we can't do right now, but we've always got a choice, and we still always have lots of power.
Yeah. Great.
Eugene, I would just add one more thing, because I have to go. But before I go, one of the things that we are here as an organization, help supporting all the ethnic minority businesses, and as part of our paying it forward, we have just announced a 1-year full membership free for every ethnic minority business. Use our network, because you will be having access to hundreds of entrepreneurs that are here to help you. You will have access to supply chains. You have access to a friendly community that is here to help you navigate this crisis. So I would encourage every entrepreneur that is part of this, a brilliant network to leverage that offer and join our community, so that we can work together and help each other.
Yeah. If you share me the information, I'll send it across to all our members after the meeting. Thank you so much. Apologies,
thank you so much,
everyone that we've learned, but let's just wrap up quickly. I don't know, Bimbola, did you have any comment on that? Or
actually, I think everyone has said it all. Mayank has said it all. Yvette, Aline, Caroline, everyone has said something very important. And I was also just going to mention that it's also important to use this time that we have to learn new skills. So yes, we own businesses and we want to keep our brand out there. We want to showcase that, we're doing well and we want to keep clients. But at the same time, it's important to make yourself, what's the word that I'm trying to use now? Make yourself basically accessible, learn something new. As Yvette said, do you really want to go back to the 9-to-5 life? Maybe there's something out there that you may just yet to discover about yourself. So that goes into job insecurity, because again, in my industry, a couple of people within the supply chain side, which is all services, have been, let go because projects are not going on. So the next question is, then what? So this is where new skills, which you may have, or something that you may have been thinking of doing, you haven't done. This is the time to actually get that done, while also knowing fully well that you need to keep a very good mental balance and very good health for yourself as well. So that's just what I want to add, because everyone has said it all. And yes,
I think let me just take one. We've run out of time, but let me take one quick question from which is the question is, how do you plan ahead when you don't know the future look like? Because clearly, even if you ask the government how will the 30 days look like, it's difficult to tell. How do you plan ahead? And also, what are the opportunities do you see ahead? Is it like this disruption is likely to change the world, the new norm, and some of the work of the future will disappear? So some of the things has been mentioned. We receive majority of the business now eliminating some of the face-to-face services, and as we move to gig and the remote economy, where do you see the opportunities for the audience, and how do you plan ahead with so many unknown or dark smoke territory?
Yeah, can I just start? Basically, there are several ways to plan ahead. Number one is we already live in a disruptive society. If we start looking at the hotels, we have the Airbnb. If we look at transportation, you have Uber, and so on and so forth. So essentially, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier on, finding what it is that you enjoy, or maybe learning a new skill. And that's one way to plan ahead. Secondly, be financially savvy. This is something that I would also really encourage women, especially, and this is not me trying to say men are not equally important, but women also need to be very financially savvy in terms of learning about your future pensions and things like that you should be able to do yourself without having to wait for the accountant in your company if you're an employee or so. You have to be able to plan for things like that. Yes, no one knows what's going to happen next week, or even tomorrow, or even in so you just have to use what you have today to basically keep yourself and basically plan with what you have today and learn. And basically now I don't need to jump on the plane to go see my next client. All I need to do is to arrange a web session with points that we need to discuss. So technology, these are several ways to plan ahead. But this is just my very little contribution. So I'll let the other ladies.
No, I love that. I love that. I think that's perfect, because actually, when people go through a traumatic experience, that's not a good time to make decisions, because your decision-making process is actually compromised. So we would often, I would suggest that to stay with the here and now, look at what's going on for you in the moment. Now, this crisis has been a wake-up call. It's been a wake-up call to our vulnerabilities, but it's also been a wake-up call to our possibilities and what the challenges are and what we can learn from the process, what we want to be different, as you were saying, Bim and Yvette, looking at what do I want to be different, what do I want to change? And that can be a plan for the future, because then you're looking at what you've learned, what you can take from it, and then what would be your next steps forward in making that change and doing things differently to a more secure, structured, more fulfilled life.
Thank you so much. And just to wrap up, I just want to give 1 minute all the speakers to just say, to wrap up everything, what are your thoughts moving forward, and 1 minute each.
Okay, my leaving thoughts are for all the entrepreneurs, use this time to focus on relationship building trust with your clients. Because when we talk about, moving forward planning, your clients would give you that insight into what's the future in store, build that relationship. And also use this time for reflection. Take stock of what you haven't done well in the past. Try to eliminate that from your business. Make changes for the future. Try to be introduce flexible hours for your team so that they can perform better. And basically that all these things coming together would help you build business for the future. So be resilient and be hopeful, because we have come across these crises so many times in different shape and form. And we are always human. We are humans. We are always reinventing ourselves. I'm very positive. I'm sure that we will all come out together much stronger, much more caring, and less consuming, which is important. And also, and be together. I think it's a right opportunity for communities to come together.
Thank you, Marka.
Yes, so for me, I'm very happy to see that quite a lot of my clients and new clients as well, they've been very sensible in thinking about ensuring their income, because that is something that was really taken for granted before. So going forward, people are really thinking about, protecting their income, because without your income, you will not have had that mortgage in the first place. So quite a lot of people are doing that, and unfortunately there's people that have lost their lives, and some of them were insured and some of them were not insured. And if you were not insured, unfortunately the lender won't be able to really support you in any way other than just take over the property, and then your family will be left with nothing. So that is definitely something I want people to really start paying attention to, because it's quite important. Yeah.
Thank you, Aline. And Bimbola and Caroline, what's your 1 minute summary?
Well, I think you can probably guess what I'm going to say, which is everybody needs to make their mental health and well-being a priority. It's so important now more than ever to invest in your mental health, to be able to give yourself the time and the space and not to feel guilty about that, to talk about it, to take time out, and to really feel that it's something that is, it's not something that is a weakness, it's a necessity.
Yes, for me, I'm going to say, I would like to encourage everyone out there, don't be afraid to learn something new. That's one. Two, take care of yourself, of course. And three, whether you're in business or you are working for a business, your clients are very important, because how you treat them and how you do take care of them would determine how your business would come out at the end of the day, after all of this goes down. So that's just pretty much me. And of course, again, being in the energy world, I'm hoping that we start to go into the cleaner form of energy. And of course, that means there will be more use of gas and renewable energy. So a cleaner world, hopefully, would also help us to stay alive more.
Yvette, are you still online? What's your 1 minute thought?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, for me, I think I'll still want to recap on what I said initially about, being empathetic and sympathetic in terms of how we handle things, how we handle people around us, and also our resources. If we can actually live through this period with less extravagancy and, be mindful of our society and caring for one another, I think it's something that is critical that we'll take forward and be able to build on that, looking forward to a better future, a better way of living, a better resource management, being more resource efficient, being more circular in our approach to doing business and wherever we do in our life. I think that's critical for us.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone. I hope you find the discussion insightful and thought-provoking and has provided some useful tools and practical guidance and the tips that you can take away today and they help to manage the current situation. And hopefully we'll see through the challenges ahead of us. And of course, you please sign up for our upcoming webcast. We'll continue to host more discussion, invite more speakers like we had today to share their thought and perspective in terms of how we can navigate the challenges ahead of us, and of course collectively support each other to go through these challenges and come out. So thank you so much for spending your time and my sincere apologies. We've run, but the discussion was very good. I couldn't stop.
Very good.
So
yeah.
I thought it's worth it for the extra 20 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
My apologies.
Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Cheers.
It was very nice meeting you all. Thank
Nice
you.
to
Thank
meet
you so much.
See you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thanks. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
So